The station had been built to survive wars, but it was governed as though nothing worse than a trade dispute could ever happen again. From the observation ring, Elias Rourke watched the slow procession of ships slide into their assigned berths, sleek alien cruisers, bulbous freighters, vessels whose geometry still offended human intuition. The station absorbed them all with patient indifference, its gravity field steady, its lights unwavering. Everything about the place suggested permanence. That illusion was why humans were classified as civilians here. Permanence bred complacency, and complacency preferred predictability. Elias rested his gloved hand against the transparent alloy of the viewport. Beyond it, the dead star glimmered like a fossilized sun, cold and faint. He had been stationed on Halcyon Array for 3 years, long enough to understand the unspoken rules. Humans were welcomed, fed, protected, and politely ignored. Their role was to assist, maintain, and observe. Not command. Not decide. He was officially a systems engineer, emergency infrastructure, redundancy mapping, failure response. Unofficially, he was someone the station relied on without admitting it. Human-designed subsystems threaded through Halcyon's older architecture, installed after earlier incidents no one liked to talk about. Elias knew every junction, every manual override that existed because some alien designer had never considered the possibility of everything failing at once. Behind him, the soft tread of magnetic boots announced another human presence. Marcus Hale stopped beside him, broad-shouldered and tense, his security badge catching the light. "You see the patrol formation?" Marcus asked quietly. Elias nodded. "Too tight. They're nervous." "They're always nervous when humans notice things first." Elias allowed himself a thin smile. Marcus had once been military, back when Earth still pretended it mattered strategically. Now he was Station Security Liaison, a title that meant he carried authority in emergencies he was never expected to face. Around them, the observation ring hummed with alien voices. Tall avians clicked softly as they passed. A pair of armored reptilians stood at a tactical display, their tails motionless, eyes fixed on unreadable data streams. None of them spared the humans more than a courteous glance. Civilians. That word followed Elias everywhere. It was printed on his access credentials, embedded in the station's AI permissions, and reinforced by 1,000 small restrictions. He could repair a reactor conduit, but not authorize its shutdown. He could diagnose a cascading failure, but not issue evacuation orders. The logic was simple. Humans were too new, too volatile, too emotionally driven to be trusted with lives that were not their own. Elias disagreed, but disagreement required authority, and authority was something humans were not given. He turned from the viewport and checked the data slate in his hand. A minor fluctuation blinked in amber across one of the station's outer energy relays. It was within tolerance, barely, but the pattern bothered him. It wasn't the fluctuation itself, it was how often it was repeating. "Marcus," he said, lowering his voice, "how many alerts have you seen today?" Marcus frowned. "Define alerts. Not alarms. Oddities. Small things that shouldn't line up." Marcus thought for a moment. Cargo bay pressure variance. Medical wing power dip. Security sensors lagging half a second behind real time. Elias exhaled slowly. "That's 3. Meaning? Meaning something is stressing the system unevenly." He tapped the slate, pulling up layered schematics. Halcyon wasn't designed for improvisation. It's brilliant at routine, terrible at surprise. Marcus glanced toward the reptilian officers. "They'll say it's within acceptable margins." "They always do," Elias replied, "until margins collapse." Another human approached them, shorter, leaner, with the tired eyes of someone who slept in fragments. Daniel Kovac, Medical Response Coordinator. Civilian. Always civilian. "Elias," Daniel said, "you feel it too?" "Feel what?" "The station," Daniel replied, "like it's holding its breath." Elias studied him for a moment, then nodded. Humans had learned long ago to trust instincts born from surviving disasters. Earth had trained them well: earthquakes, blackouts, storms that tore cities apart while committees argued. I've logged 3 minor anomalies, Elias said. Individually meaningless. Together. He let the sentence trail off. Daniel grimaced. Medical just ran a system check. No errors. But the AI took longer than usual to respond. Marcus folded his arms. So, we report it. We already did, Elias said. Twice. And they thanked us, Elias replied flatly. A chime echoed through the ring, soft, melodic, deliberately calming. The station AI's voice followed, smooth and genderless. Attention all inhabitants. A minor technical irregularity has been detected. Please remain at your current locations. Station command is addressing the issue. Around them, no one panicked. Conversations continued. Ships docked. Life went on. Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. That's new, Daniel muttered. They usually don't announce minor irregularities. Marcus leaned closer. What aren't they telling us? Elias stared at the data slate as new readings populated faster than before. The amber indicators were multiplying, spreading like a rash across the station's outer systems. Still within tolerance. Still ignorable if you believed tolerance was infinite. He made a decision. Get the others, he said to Marcus. Quietly. Engineering, security, medical. All human. Marcus raised an eyebrow. That's not protocol. Elias met his gaze. Neither is pretending this is nothing. Marcus hesitated for only a second, then nodded and turned away. Daniel lingered. You think this is it? Elias didn't answer immediately. He looked around the ring, at the alien officers confident in their layers of procedure, at the civilians strolling beneath a sky held together by mathematics and hope. I think, Elias said finally, that we're about to find out why humans were never meant to stay civilians forever. The lights flickered. Just once. Barely noticeable. Then every display in the observation ring froze, and the calm voice of the station AI cut off mid-syllable. For a heartbeat, Halcyon Array was silent. And in that silence, Elias knew the emergency had already begun. Silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before the station began to come apart in pieces too small for panic to recognize all at once. The lights returned first, brighter than before, then dimmed again as gravity shuddered underfoot. Elias braced himself against the bulkhead as the floor tilted half a degree and corrected. Around the observation ring, alien voices rose in sharp bursts of confusion. Displays unfroze only to flood with error symbols Elias had never seen grouped together. The station AI came back online with a noticeable lag. Attention! A priority systems conflict has been detected. Command is assessing. The message cut off as another tremor rippled through the structure. Somewhere deep in Halcyon Array, something failed with finality. Marcus's voice crackled over the private human channel Elias had opened moments earlier. Engineering Bay reports a power surge across the outer ring. Security sensors are blind in 4 sectors. Daniel's voice followed, tight but controlled. Medical wing just lost redundancy. Life support's holding, but barely. Elias closed his eyes for half a second, assembling the picture in his mind. Uneven stress. Delayed AI response. Sector blindness. It wasn't a single failure, it was a cascade, jumping between systems that were never meant to fail together. Listen to me, Elias said, his voice steady despite the pounding in his chest. This isn't localized. We're looking at a systemic overload. Probably external in origin or a feedback loop from the dead star's radiation wake. Command hasn't said anything, Marcus replied. They won't, Elias said. Not until they're certain. And certainty will come too late. Another chime echoed through the station, harsher this time. Emergency lighting snapped on in sections, painting the corridors in alternating bands of white and red. Alien command channels erupted. Elias couldn't understand every language, but panic translated easily. Orders contradicted each other. Units were told to stand by, then redeploy, then wait for authorization that never arrived. Elias pulled up the station schematic and watched alarms bloom like fractures in glass. The outer energy relays he had noticed earlier were now spiking well beyond tolerance. Marcus, he said, Seal off civilian transit routes leading to the outer ring. Don't ask permission. That'll put us in violation. I know, Elias replied. Do it anyway. There was a pause, short, decisive. On it. Elias started moving. He didn't run. Running caused panic, and panic spread faster than any failure. He walked with purpose, signaling to the humans he passed. They fell in behind him without questions, drawn by tone rather than rank. A reptilian officer stepped into his path near a junction, towering and armored, his crest flaring in agitation. Human, the officer barked in clipped standard, return to your designated safety zone. Elias didn't stop. Your designated safety zone is about to lose atmosphere, he said, tapping his slate and projecting a live feed of pressure decay. Your command deck is sitting on a failing junction. The officer hesitated, eyes flicking to the data. Command has not authorized. Command is blind, Elias cut in. And you don't have time. For a moment, Elias expected restraint fields or armed intervention. Instead, the officer stepped aside, confusion warring with instinct. Elias passed through. The deeper they went, the worse it became. Gravity fluctuated in nauseating waves. Bulkheads groaned as thermal stress mounted. Automated drones froze mid-task, awaiting instructions that would never come. Daniel caught up to him near a maintenance hub. We're evacuating 3 medical wards, he said. But the lifts are unreliable. Use the stairs, Elias replied. Rotate teams. Keep oxygen packs on hand. Daniel nodded, already issuing orders. Elias reached the first manual control node and pried open the access panel. Alien design favored elegance over accessibility. Human upgrades had added brute force options, levers, switches, physical failsafes. He grabbed the primary override and hauled it down with a grunt. The station screamed. Not audibly, but through vibration. A deep, resonant shudder that rattled teeth and bones. The power surge stabilized, then spiked again, harder. That didn't work, Marcus said over comms. It slowed it, Elias replied. Which means we're right. Another tremor hit, stronger than before. The observation ring, kilometers away, lost artificial gravity entirely. Hundreds of lives suddenly depended on handholds and luck. Elias made a choice he had hoped never to make. All human teams, he said into the open channel, overriding civilian comm restrictions with a code he had memorized but never used. This is Elias Rourke. Station command is compromised. From this moment on, we operate independently. If you can help, you do. If you can't, you clear the way. There was no cheering, no hesitation, just acknowledgments, one after another. Copy. Understood. Moving. Alien channels went silent as human traffic surged. Elias accessed the central emergency lattice, restricted, locked, guarded by layers of protocol. He bypassed them one by one, exploiting redundancies meant to protect against sabotage, not desperation. Warnings flared. His civilian designation blinked red, then disappeared. He didn't have time to wonder why. The display resolved into a horrifying clarity. The station's primary reactor was entering an uncontrolled feedback loop, not from internal damage, but from energy being siphoned, pulled outward, toward the star's wake. Something in the station's shielding had turned it into a conduit. If the loop completed, Halcyon Array would tear itself apart. Elias transmitted the data to every channel he could access, alien and human alike. This is not a drill, he said. You have minutes, not hours. For the first time, Alien Command responded, not with orders, but with a question. Human. A voice demanded, strained and uncertain. What do you require? Elias stared at the reactor model, at the narrowing window of survival, and felt the weight of a station full of lives settle on his shoulders. I require, he said slowly, that you stop treating us like civilians. The line went silent. Then, against every regulation Halcyon Array had ever enforced, command access opened. Elias took it, and the emergency entered its next, far more dangerous phase. Command access changed nothing about the danger, but it changed everything about who could confront it. Elias felt the station unfold beneath his awareness as new data streams poured in: reactor stress, hull integrity, life support margins measured in breaths rather than percentages. Alien officers crowded the command lattice, their voices overlapping in tight, brittle bursts. They wanted options. Elias saw only trade-offs. "The feedback loop is accelerating," he said, projecting the reactor model across every active channel. "Shielding polarity is reversed in 3 outer segments. Energy is being drawn outward instead of contained." "That configuration is impossible," an avian commander insisted. "Our designs do not allow." "Your designs didn't account for human retrofits interacting with stellar wake radiation," Elias replied. "Mine did. That's why I noticed it first." Silence followed, thick with reluctant comprehension. Marcus's face appeared on the display, sweat streaking his brow. "Security teams report hull stress fractures near segment theta. If those tear, we lose the ring." "Then we don't let them tear," Elias said. "I need teams on the exterior, manual reinforcement, and field recalibration." A reptilian officer recoiled. "Exterior exposure at this radiation level is lethal." "Prolonged exposure is," Elias corrected. "Short bursts are survivable with rotation." The officer's eyes narrowed. "You would send your own into that?" Elias didn't hesitate. "They'll volunteer." As if summoned, human acknowledgments flooded the channel. No bravado, no speeches, just names, locations, readiness. Daniel cut in from the medical wing. "I'll manage rotation and dosage," he said. "We can push them harder than you think, but not endlessly." "You'll get what time we can buy," Elias replied. The station shuddered again, sharper this time. Hull alarm screamed in a dozen languages. Elias rerouted power manually, fingers flying over controls never meant for one mind to handle alone. Human technicians appeared on secondary feeds, mirroring his actions, catching errors before they propagated. Alien Command watched, stunned, as a species labeled unstable built stability from chaos. A new voice entered the channel, measured, authoritative, no longer dismissive. "Human Rourke," the station commander said. "Your plan risks lives." Elias met the gaze of the projected avatar. "So does inaction. We are sworn to preserve." "Your oaths won't matter if the station is dust," Elias said. "You want zero risk. I want survival. Choose." The commander hesitated. That hesitation cost them another fraction of structural integrity. "Proceed," the commander said at last. "You have authority." Authority tasted bitter. Elias pushed it aside and focused. "Marcus," he said, "you're coordinating exterior teams. No heroics. If anyone misses a check-in, you pull them." "Understood," Marcus replied, already issuing orders. Daniel's channel flickered. "We've got casualties. Minor so far. Radiation sickness onset delayed, but manageable." "Keep them alive," Elias said. "I'll keep the station together." Minutes blurred into a relentless sequence of decisions. Energy flows stabilized in one sector and spiked in another. Hull breaches were sealed by hands numb with cold and radiation. Humans moved where drones failed, adapted where algorithms stalled. Alien officers began to follow human cues without realizing it, waiting for Elias's nod before acting, routing questions through human channels. The shift was subtle but irreversible. Then the reactor model flashed crimson. "Elias," Marcus said quietly, "Theta segment is failing faster than predicted." Elias pulled the data closer, his jaw tightening. The feedback loop had found a new path, bypassing their temporary fixes. There was only one remaining option, one that every protocol forbade. He opened a private channel to Daniel. "If we vent the reactor manually," Elias said, "we can break the loop. But the controls are external." Daniel didn't ask what that meant. "How many?" "2 teams," Elias said. "High exposure. No margin." A pause. Then Daniel spoke, voice steady. "I'll prep them." Elias opened the command channel again. "All units, listen carefully. We are out of safe solutions. This next step will hurt. It will save the station." An avian officer protested, feathers flaring. "This is madness." "This is humanity," Elias replied. We don't get perfect conditions. We get moments where someone steps forward. 2 human teams reported ready. Their faces appeared briefly on the display, determined, afraid, resolute. Elias met each gaze, committing their names to memory. Do it, he said. They stepped into the void. The station groaned as reactor vents opened against every safety interlock. Energy screamed outward in a controlled torrent, ripping the feedback loop apart. External teams anchored themselves with mag lines, hands working by muscle memory as radiation clawed at their suits. Elias counted heartbeats. 1 team reported completion. The second was silent for 2 agonizing seconds longer. Then, vents sealed. Pull us in. Marcus exhaled audibly as retrieval drones engaged. The reactor stabilized. Alarms died away, replaced by a fragile, beautiful quiet. Elias sagged back against the console, exhaustion crashing into him now that survival was no longer theoretical. Around him, alien officers stared at the displays, at the human names scrolling beside critical system recoveries. The station commander spoke again, his voice altered by something new, respect edged with unease. You saved Halcyon Array. Elias didn't look up. We're not done yet. Because even as the station held, Elias saw the numbers, the lingering instability, the costs still unfolding. Survival had been achieved. The reckoning was next. The reckoning arrived quietly, carried on stabilizing readouts and casualty lists instead of alarms. Halcyon Array drifted in wounded equilibrium, its rotation steady but slower, its lights dimmed to conserve power. Emergency bulkheads remained sealed in places, and the air held the faint metallic scent of overworked systems. Elias stood at the command console long after the crisis had passed, watching numbers settle into ranges that no longer spelled extinction. Marcus approached, helmet tucked under his arm, his face drawn but unbroken. Exterior teams are recovering, he said. Radiation exposure was rough. No fatalities. Elias closed his eyes at that, relief cutting deeper than exhaustion. Good, he murmured. That's good. Daniel's voice joined them over the channel, quieter now, edged with fatigue. Medical is stable. Long-term monitoring required, but everyone's alive. You owe me a station-sized favor. Elias allowed a tired smile. Name it later. The command chamber felt different with the danger gone. Alien officers no longer clustered behind protocol barriers. They lingered near human workstations instead, studying unfamiliar displays, absorbing a lesson they had never intended to learn. The station commander stood apart, his posture rigid, his gaze fixed on the restored reactor model. You assumed authority without clearance, the commander said at last. Elias didn't turn. Yes. You violated civilian restrictions. Yes. You endangered human lives. Elias finally faced him. I spent them carefully. The words landed harder than any accusation. A murmur rippled through the chamber, quickly silenced. The commander inclined his head, a gesture Elias had learned was reserved for equals. Our protocols failed, he said. Your people did not. He gestured, and a formal notice appeared across the command lattice. Human classification on Halcyon Array, civilian support species, flickered, then dissolved into archived data. In light of today's events, the commander continued, humans will no longer be restricted to non-combatant roles during station emergencies. A new designation will be drafted. Elias studied the notice for a moment, then shook his head. Don't. The commander frowned. Explain. Labels didn't save this station, Elias said. Actions did. Give us access, responsibility, and accountability. Don't dress it up to make yourselves comfortable. Silence followed, heavy but thoughtful. The commander nodded slowly. Then access, responsibility, and accountability it is. Around the station, systems hummed back to life. Docking schedules resumed in altered form. Ships transmitted inquiries filled with disbelief and newly cautious respect. Words spread faster than any official report. The humans had not waited to be protected. Elias walked the corridors afterward, the way he always had, but the eyes that followed him had changed. Alien crew members stepped aside, not out of hierarchy, but recognition. Some inclined their heads. Others simply watched, recalibrating their understanding of the species that had been content to stand quietly until silence became dangerous. Marcus fell into step beside him. "You realize," he said, "they're going to ask for humans in every emergency from now on." Elias nodded. "They always were. They just didn't know it." "And you?" Marcus asked. "What happens to you?" Elias considered the question. He thought of Earth's long history of surviving without permission, of learning the hard way that safety was temporary and responsibility permanent. "I go back to engineering," he said, "until something breaks again." They stopped at a viewport overlooking the dead star. It seemed smaller now, less ominous, as if stripped of some imagined authority. The station rotated steadily, scarred but alive. Daniel's voice chimed in one last time. "Commands requesting a debrief. Full account." Elias sighed. "Of course they are." He paused, then added, "Tell them we'll attend. On our schedule." Marcus grinned. "That's new." "No," Elias said softly. "That's just honest." As they turned away, the station AI spoke again, its tone subtly altered, stripped of earlier condescension. "Notice to all inhabitants. Emergency protocols have been revised. Human personnel are authorized full operational access during crises." Elias didn't slow his stride. The galaxy would take time to adjust. It always did. But Halcyon Array had learned something permanent. Humans were only civilians when nothing was wrong. And when something broke badly enough, they became the ones who stayed standing after the alarms